Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of A Handful of Hope. I am so happy and grateful to have Dunni Atalabi with us here today, who is a coach, family doctor, speaker, entrepreneur, and mom who empowers moms to eliminate the feeling of overwhelm and exhaustion by tapping into the superpowers within so that we can live the life of calm and abundance we desire and deserve. This is made available by provision of online courses, coaching, and regular events such as challenges where practical self-care and well-being strategies and tactics are shared to enhance our well-being on a daily basis. Dunni, welcome, and thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, everyone, I have to tell you this. For those of you who are just listening to the audio, I started the conversation with Dunni before we started recording saying, I find that anybody who shows up with as warm a smile as you do, we always have an incredible conversation. And she's telling me, she said, I usually have a superhero shirt on, but I don't have it on right now. I had one of my Superman shirts on. And she said, I feel like I should change. And I asked, do you want to change? So as any good superhero would, she quickly disappeared, found the nearest phone booth, reappeared in full superhero garb, cape included. And now I am convinced that Dunni and I are long lost soulmates that have a mutual affiliation for superheroes. So I'll start with theirs, Dunni. Why superheroes? What is the connection with superheroes and superpowers for you?
Oh, wow. First of all, I love the fact that it's my father who introduced me into the superhero world. Growing up, I think he was a nerd, and he kind of introduced us into superheroes / Star Wars, all that. So that's one lovely thing. But the thing that actually touches me at this point is there are times when we give our power away, and that's when we feel broken. That's when we feel hopeless, fearful. And I've been there. And so now I decided the moment I was able to connect with myself, with the powers I had within me, my superpowers, I started to see so many beautiful changes. And so it's almost as though I became a whole new person, like a whole superhero, just, taking off my usual clothes and just coming out with my cape into any situation, no matter how terrible. So that's why my love for superheroes have just grown.
I love that. It makes me think whenever I go to back in the days when you go to movies pre-COVID, most of the movies I'd go see inevitably in the theater were always the superhero movies. And for me, it was something that it inspired hope, but I noticed that whenever I leave the theater, I left it feeling like I had absorbed some of the superpowers that were just displayed on screen. And that it was such a funny thing because I would literally have this moment of transition of leaving the theater and walking away towards my car, wherever I was going, where I felt like I had entered into the Matrix. And I was seeing people and thinking all of a sudden that I could use some sort of superpower to, leap to a tall building or to fly or whatever it was. And inevitably, there's a disappointment that comes afterwards that I'm not quite able to do it. But I get that. It really does help you tap into. And I don't know if I showed you this, but I have a Captain America water bottle right here. I have a little Superman thumb drive right here. I mean, in my whole field of vision, there's superhero stuff everywhere because for me, similar to you, it really does remind me to tap into those ideals and those powers that superheroes represent.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite superheroes?
I would say I absolutely love Wonder Woman and Black Panther.
And why those two?
Well, Wonder Woman, one, she's a woman, definitely, and she looks awesome. Now, I absolutely love, the thing about it, I love her costume, but it's not something I would like to wear myself. So I kind of go with the super, like Supergirl kind of thing, because it covers a bit more. That's one.
Yeah.
Then, then with Black Panther, oh my goodness, it just brings a different dimension to people's beliefs, people's inaccurate descriptions. It brings the depth of power from people who were thought to be, like, say, the underdogs, the people who people thought never had anything. And then suddenly you see there's so much richness, there's so much grace, there's so much power in the, and loyalty as well. So I think with that, it just kind of blew me away, I would say. It wasn't one of the superheroes I knew when I was growing up. It's as I grew up, I kind of, oh, wow, Black Panther. Oh, wow, that's nice. So yes, I kind of have grown into love that as well.
The actor who plays Black Panther, Chadwick, he had such an incredible screen presence too. I remember when he was first introduced in, well, I think it was Captain America: Civil War. I was like, gosh, this guy stole the show. And there's a scene in Avengers Endgame. I've watched this scene probably 200 times since it came out now. But when all of them come back through the portal, and there's an moment between Captain America and Black Panther when they look at each other, and the Black Panther just nods at Captain America. It's such this beautiful, powerful gesture, because in that nod, it's like hope is restored and the possibility of something new is conveyed. And there's this almost like unspoken, you didn't give up and now we're here to support you. And it just, I don't know if that scene would have been as powerful as it was if it hadn't been those two characters.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I watched the movie, it was actually a dramatic one for us, because we said, you know what, we're going to watch the movie and then we could still go to movies. It was pre-COVID. So I wore like my traditional outfits, like print dashiki kind of thing, and we all went into the theater en masse. It was amazing.
Oh, that's incredible. You'll have to send me pictures. I would love to see that.
Sure.
Did you talk to us about the work you do with moms?
Okay, so what I do with moms is to empower them. And they use the word empower because moms are moms not because they are qualified to get there. They did not go to school, they did not get manual, they just had children, and then here you are, you're a mom. And it's like you're kind of thrown into the midst of so many things, and you're like, okay, so where do I start from? And unfortunately, when you're a mom, society have their standards and their rules. You're supposed to do this or else you're a bad mom. You're supposed to do this or you're a failure. And it's rather unfortunate that moms have to go through that. I remember there is a saying back where I come from. It says, a child that is good belongs to the father. Any other child that is not good belongs to the mother. So it was something that was repeated over and over again. And when I went through my process of loss and grief, I noted that the pain that comes with grieving, being a mom, doing all the other things you do, your job, your business, anything else you do, is quite enormous. And so having someone there saying, you're doing great, you're a super mom, even if you are tired, exhausted, under the covers, everybody tells you you're a failure. No, you're a super mom. You're not, a super mom is not the mom who is taking children to violin, doing soccer here, and, crushing everything. That's not a super mom. It's that mom who has got her maternal roles. She's got other things she's doing, but her head is above ground, even if it's under the duvet. And the moment I was able to start speaking to women about this, started with my friends and family and colleagues as well. And then they started transcending into my patients and then clients. I saw that there was a big need, because we need that. I see you, I hear you, I'm here for you, you're doing great. Well done, keep going. And so that's the main reason why when I empower moms, I do it not just for the moms themselves, but for their children. Because if mom is broken, exhausted, overwhelmed, the children are going to feel it, are going to absorb it by osmosis, and are going to reflect it. And that's why we can see things like an increased level of children who are maybe unwell in terms of mental health, in terms of emotional instabilities, because they feel like, oh, what am I doing? Oh, mom is also fearful. Maybe I should do this. And I think when mom is great, children will be great. And being able to build mom up, empower mom to teach those children, oh my goodness, it's going to be amazing.
I so appreciate the work you're doing, because I recently learned that in the US, I may be slightly off in these statistics, so don't take them as gospel unless they really are true, but it was something to the effect of 70% of the people who end up going through the prison system at some point are coming from the foster system, have been in and out of the foster system because they're a byproduct of some sort of broken, disruptive home, dysfunction on either the mom or the father's end, or maybe both. And on the back end of that, it's something like 90% of that 70% ends up repeating the similar pattern that they have when they create a broken home, right? It's that classic example of the person who grows up being raised by an alcoholic parent. They spend their whole life not wanting to drink because they're terrified of the outcome, and they raise a child who becomes an alcoholic. And it's not necessarily because it's hereditary, it's because all the child knew was alcohol, 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 even though it was a don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. But it was never about how to live, but it was always what to avoid. And so it's interesting how these patterns repeat itself. And I say that to acknowledge what you're doing, Dunni, because I think it's so incredible that folks like yourself are out there taking the stand to really empower moms, especially at a point where, what you said resonated so much. All of a sudden, here's the baby. You didn't get a manual or a how-to guide or anything to do all these things, let alone probably really deal with the emotion and the mental swings that comes with it, the added stress and responsibility. And to think that so many lives are affected, and where the dominoes can fall one way or the other, if the mom is supported or not supported, if she's empowered or she's disempowered during those critical moments. And I think that that's just such important work to do in the world.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You mentioned grief. I'm curious, do you find, or have you found, you've developed any superpowers from grief?
Oh, wow. I love that question. Yes, I have. And it's it is quite interesting. I think I'll try to bring it from a bit of an analogy. The way I felt when my father died was really, really hard to describe, because just was a lot of emotions, a lot of pain and fear and guilt and all sorts going on. And one day I was thinking about it, but I needed to give this loss, the grief, a meaning. I didn't understand why it happened. I didn't understand what the rationale was. But something that came to discover following the research I did, reading, crying, praying, and everything else that you do when you're grieving. I still do grieve. I'm not saying it's over and done with, because it really never comes to an end. It lasts for a very long time. But it has opened my eyes to the process, to how things grow, how things become. So I started to discover and uncover the superpowers of my creativity, of my awareness of being. So then I started to ask myself, who are you? And I started to tap into who I am. And I was able to step fully into my power. And then I went further to say, and whose am I? Because I believe in God. And I tend to also gain additional strength when I'm faced with very difficult moments, stressful moments, by saying, I'm struggling at the moment, I need a hand. And that's where my holistic view of well-being came to be, that it's not just about the body or mental or emotional, you need spiritual well-being as well to make that whole being, that's we as beings, well. And that grief process helped me to uncover these superpowers I never knew that I had. I was just kind of doing things and responding. I was not proactive. I was reactive. But this helped me to contemplate and helped me to uncover these beautiful attributes and powers. And I still keep discovering every now and again. And it's fantastic the way it unfolds. It's so beautiful, so, so beautiful. I could talk about this for ages. I'm actually writing a book about it, but anyway, I'll leave that till later.
Oh, I'm excited to read it. Dunni, in an earlier conversation you and I had, you had shared about how being a doctor and then looking at really bringing the patient and looking at the whole piece of it, the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. And I find this so fascinating because traditional Western medicine very much seems to be diagnostic in the sense of, you have this, here's the symptom, here's the prescription or the pill perhaps for it. And it seems that what I'm hearing from you, and this is maybe inspired somewhat by your grieving process, is it's inspired you to really look at the whole person and recognize that there's a place for Western medicine. And that may be a primary treatment, or it may be secondary in many cases for actual behavioral changes that a person needs to make. But what you're doing is you're integrating all those areas, right? You're really trying to create a complete picture of what health and wellness perhaps looks like for somebody. Is that fair to say? And can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very important to note that, yes, while we have this framework in Western medicine as you come with your symptoms, I examine you and I elicit the signs, I make a diagnosis and I give you a script, that's not 100% how to empower someone to optimal health. That is almost like treating the symptoms or treating a factor or a fraction of what is actually happening to this person. I'll give you an example. So someone comes to me, I have got some redness on my arm. Okay, and how long has that been for? A few days. And I've got a bit of a fever. And maybe I find out by the time I examine this person's arm that it is infected. So we call that cellulitis, so soft tissue infection. The treatment for that is usually antibiotics. But what if, while I was speaking to this person, I asked this person, how are you? Who is at home with you? How's your mood? How's work? Are you struggling with anything? And I listen. That's the key. Listen for what's going on in the person's social environment, in the person's psychological framework, and what emotional aspects the person is demonstrating or the tone with which they are communicating. Now, I'm telling you this because it happened to someone who had come to see me, and it was a situation of self-harm. And if I had not asked that question and I had just given antibiotics, it would have just been, here's some antibiotics, and maybe 1 week or less than, that person would have probably had killed himself because the person was suicidal. So it's so important whenever we're communicating, especially when it comes to the healthcare system, to look at the whole human being. And that's something I would say especially in the UK, we try to do in terms of the holistic family medicine care. I also teach medical students. So I always tell them, whenever you see someone, there is the clinical aspect, but there are at least 3 to 5 different issues you need to sort out. And always ask about the social, the psychological aspects of this person's situation or life. And that would give you a better view. So yes, it's so important to look at the whole being, because if you just give them antibiotics or you give that medication or you just send them off for a test, there might be something that would either affect the treatment and make it not work, or prevent them from getting the treatment, or actually end their life before they can actually fully benefit from that treatment you're giving. So that's the main reason why I look at the whole being. And I would attribute that actually to my experience with loss and my ability to look at people more holistically.
It's not lost on me that to be an empowerer of moms and to really see and hear and acknowledge what they're going through, and then to also do that with as a doctor with a patient, how that must make someone feel, especially someone in that situation who is self-harming, because I imagine so much of the self-harm was probably attributed to them not seeing, felt, and heard. I know for myself, just as a personal experience, I rarely ever have to go to the hospital, and I have not gone to a regular yearly checkup with a doctor, simply because the last several times I went to see a doctor, it seemed like I would get there, I'd have to wait an hour, and then I would get the doctor would pop in, hour plus late. I would get maybe 2 minutes of their time. They'd be 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door. And I just felt so unseen and so unheard. And I thought, why am I spending my time here? And that's not to not acknowledge the busyness of medical professionals and the demands on their time. It's just to say, as a human being having this human experience, and like all 8 billion of us on the planet, we all want to be seen, heard, understood, feel like we matter, feel like we belong. It was an experience that left me feeling a complete lack of that, and with an unresolution and why I even came there in the first place. So I can just imagine how much that must mean to the people that you're taking the time, because I imagine that whole process takes significantly more time, and it requires you to really be there with the patient. And I'm wondering, how has being there with the patient, really being there in the moment with them, or in the moments rather, how has it transformed your practice?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, gosh. When you are with the patient in the moment, first of all, that in itself is therapeutic, because the treatment that you would have given, the medication you would have given, maybe that would take care of the clinical symptoms of fever or whatever. But the fact that the patient feels seen, heard, it kind of takes that mental and emotional weight load from their hearts and their minds, saying, this person understands me. I can trust that this is going to happen, this treatment is going to work for me, or the advice is going to work for me. And so there is that first step towards healing, from just listening, from just being there and not being distracted. Oh, yeah, next kind of thing. No, be present. And that all came with being more mindful, being more with mindful practice that I do all the time, and just understanding that every person, every human being wants to be seen, wants to be heard, and wants to be loved. Even the people that we think they're the worst in the world, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be loved. So being able to give your patient that is such a key. And it's not something, it's not the science, it's the art. Medicine.
Dunni, how can we all love more?
Ooh, wow. I think when it comes to loving more, it's the act of giving. Giving. You give your time, you give your attention, you give your presence. When you give, you're loving.
I was recently on a short trip with a friend of mine who I haven't seen in a few years. And we were at dinner and I asked a question, if you could go back 12 years or something like that, what would you change? And a few things came up, the obvious joking ones of, I would have invested in this, or I would have invested in that. But when you really got down to the deeper substance of it, what was really fascinating for both of us is we talked about how much we would have changed and really slowed down to be more in the moment, to give more of our energy to being present with the people and the places. What comes up for me right now is I can remember quite vividly being on a trip with some friends. We were sitting down at dinner. There was 4 of us, and all 4 of us had put our phone on the table. So it's a seating for 4, but a table for 8. And one of my friends, my best friend, he looks up and he says, "Gosh, this is great. I'm here with my best friends. There's nowhere else I'd rather be." And then his phone buzzes. He picks up the phone and the moment's broken. And then it kind of goes around the table where the other one picks up their phone, not because of his phone buzzed, but because the other person had broken the moment. And then the other one, who I know for sure his phone didn't buzz or beep, he picks up his phone and just starts scrolling. And I have this moment, Dunni, where I'm sitting there, and my choices, that to me, at least at that moment, it felt like were either sit here awkwardly and just kind of stare into space, or join the crowd and pick up my phone, even though there's nothing on my phone I really want to be doing. And it was such an interesting thing, because I wanted so desperately to be in that moment and connect with the people who I loved and cared about. And I allowed the influence of behaviors, whatever it was, my own insecurity of feeling awkward, to break me from that moment. And I just love that, because I feel that when you say give more of our time, more of our presence, it is incredible when we're just with somebody, or somebody's just really with us. That we don't have to say, we don't have to do, we don't have to be anything or anyone. We're just there.
Yeah, that is so, so true. That is so true.
We're coming up on our time. Before I ask my final question, where can people connect with you online?
So I'm usually on Facebook. However, I've got a website where I've got most of my up-to-date events coming up, and about myself and the work I do. And it's www.supermomwellbeing.com. So it's all about that supermom and ensuring that they have holistic well-being. So
I'll make sure everybody has access to that link. Dunni, for the moms listening, or for the people who know a mom, or the people who are listening who have a mom and love their moms, what is one thing that they can take away from today that they can immediately implement that's going to help them start to unlock some of their superpowers, or maybe tap into or enhance a superpower that they may or may not be aware that they have right now?
Oh, wow, that's an amazing question. There's so many things that they can do, but maybe I'll just start by saying some unconventional things. First of all, you need to learn to break things. Now, when I say learn to break things, you need to learn to break protocol, break the expectations of others, especially when they are not serving you. Break through the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself as a mother or about your level of achievements. So breaking through that, the limiting beliefs, the rules, and then breaking your association with people and things that keep you down. And once you finish breaking those things, you need to break your time. And what I mean by that is disrupt your time. If you have a task to do and it's going to take you 2 hours, break it into 4 to 5 parts. And in each of those 4 to 5 parts, take at least 5 minutes for you, just for you. If you need to go lock yourself in the bathroom, in case you're one of those moms who have children that go, "Mommy," and kind of come into the bathroom, just break your task up and just slip into the bathroom if you need to. But take a break. Either you go into getting a drink of water, doing a bit of a stretch, doing some deep breathing, and that in itself is so important. So that it's all about breaking, and I hope that someone will kind of take that in and use it, because what makes us feel broken at the end of the day and depleted and exhausted is because we have refused to break things.
Everyone, you are going to rewatch and re-listen. I don't know about you, but after spending this time with Dunni, I feel like I just went through a spiritual spa. She obviously and clearly has such a gentle and easy to be with presence and energy that makes really digesting the breadth of what she shared so much easier and necessary too. We started this conversation on the fun note of talking about our mutual fandom of superpowers and acknowledging Dunni for jumping off stage and turning into her Supergirl costume, and learning that her 2 favorite superheroes are Wonder Woman and Black Panther. We went into a really great conversation about looking at grief from a different perspective and about the superpowers that can unlock with it. I think for those of you who have been through grief, who have struggled with grief, that's an important part to re-listen to, because oftentimes when we emotionally feel so intensely, especially from pain, we create this false association that pain begets pain, that where there is pain, more pain comes, but we forget the amazing and beautiful opportunity that pain can actually bring a purpose to it. And I found, and I think Dunni has too, from what she shared, that oftentimes pain is a pathway to purpose. And when we really tap into it, it can unlock some of our greatest gifts, as both of us can personally attest to that as well. We looked at the superpowers that comes with empowering moms and just being there with them and acknowledging them, seeing them, hearing them, supporting them in those times of trials and tribulations and the very real and difficult challenges moms go through, of not getting any sort of how-to guide to be able to manage the emotions, the challenges, the tribulations that come with becoming a parent, and how that really becomes a beautiful metaphor for what we all need in life. It's for us, others, to slow down and just see us where we are, meet us where we are, hear us, see us, acknowledge us, and love us. Love. Boy, how can we all love a little bit more? By giving more of our time, giving more of our energy, giving more of our presence. And if you take anything away from today, don't be afraid to go to learn to break things. I love that she closed with that, to break things. So often in life, I think from early childhood, we're taught not to break things. Don't break the rules. Don't break that glass. Don't break curfew. Don't break my rules of the house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes what limits so many of us in life is we follow these archaic rules that were established by our parents or grandparents, whatever it was. that are not serving us and are actually hindering and holding us back. And if you could ask yourself one powerful question from this conversation with Dunni today, perhaps you can ask yourself, what do I need to break in my life? What do I need to break through? What I need to break a hold of? What I need to break away from? Dunni, this has been such a gift to share this time with you. Thank you so very much for your presence, your energy, your passion, your spirit. What a gift you've shared with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We will see you next time, everyone, on another edition of A Handful of Hope. Bye-bye.